Ever wondered how an R32 GT-R goes from racing time attack on the Nürburgring to emerging as an iconic EV conversion? Catastrophe on the track and revelation in the Alps open a new world of performance for one builder. Find out more in this episode of The Next Great Car Era with Marco Lima and Raijū, the Thunder Beast. Marco, thanks for joining me today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I was awaiting this podcast for a long time, so very excited.
Me too. So, Marco, you are actually over in Deutschland, and you have built a really awesome GTR.
Yes.
I am looking forward to talking more about that. But as a lead-in, we both also have some enthusiasm for racing, and part of your story is that the GTR had a little bit of an accident on the Nürburgring.
Yes.
I was trying to research into the Nürburgring a little bit
Mhm.
and help me understand. So it seems like, okay, in the US, when I go to a track, I was at the track this last weekend actually, racing
Saw
an
that, yes.
EV. It's in the middle of nowhere, and you have to go onto the property before you can get onto the track. It's a very confined thing. When I was researching Nürburgring, it seemed like there was a way that the public could just almost like a highway, like drive on and drive it. Is that true?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So the Nürburgring is, of course, it's also a traditional racetrack, especially if you look for like the official like program, and if you have races there, then of course it's a closed track and it's considered as a normal track like you know it. But for the green hell, die grüne Hölle,
Ah,
the Nordschleife, basically, it's a little bit more special because as it is that big. I mean, I guess everyone had at some point seen a picture of the track itself. Um, it is kind of passing several cities and also parts of the kind of official street in Germany. So what they do is they are offering those tourist rides where you can drive on that track like it's a normal Autobahn, like a normal highway. Yeah. So the special thing is also if you go on that road on those tourist days, you also have to stick to the rules which apply to the road. So in Germany, you are only allowed to overtake on the left side, for example,
okay.
on the autobahn.
Yeah.
So you also have to stick to that while you are driving those tourist rides. So
Uh,
you have the same rules which apply to the autobahn. Of course, unlimited speed limit.
right.
So basically, you could drive as fast as you can. There are also rules to that, but yeah, basically, then you can go there and drive there like on a normal road. Yeah,
That is really cool. I imagine people take all sorts of wacky cars on there just to say that they've done it.
yeah, exactly, and that's part of the dangerous side, I would say. Of course, you can go there with your Porsche GT3, but you also have to keep in mind that there are people coming with their Ford Fiesta.
Hmm.
And of course, there's a slightly speed difference over there. So it can be dangerous for all the people who want to just experience that legendary track, but also for the pros who can ride quite fast. They also have to watch out for the slow people just enjoying it. So that's why it's basically also called the green hell. It can be very dangerous. Yeah.
Sure. It reminds me I visited Germany one time years ago and was very excited to drive on the Autobahn. Not for Nürburgring or anything, not the Green Hell, but just the regular Autobahn. Our rental car was a Hyundai i10.
Mhm.
It's very small. And we're going along, and I felt very fast at 120 kilometers.
Mhm.
And the
Cute.
whole car, yeah, it's like it's going fast enough that the little tiny car is getting kind of thrown around by the wind. And but then, that's about as much. And really fast cars would just go by and it would just be like this whooshing, sucking sound, and we'd kind of get knocked around a little bit.
Yeah.
So I determined that I needed to go back with a faster car.
Yeah. I mean, you should do that. I would say not fast enough or soon enough, but they are talking about like limiting that. So maybe in like 10 years there will be no unlimited speed anymore in Germany. But let's see.
Oh,
There's a strong community like trying to keep the unlimited sign here. But yeah, you can definitely get into the situation where you are like even with a fast car driving like 250 on the left lane, and then suddenly you see a car coming from behind, giving you the lights, and you're like, okay, that's how it
wow.
goes here. Then you have to turn over and you have some Ferrari or Lamborghini passing by with like 280.
Wow.
That's very German, and it's not illegal. So yeah,
As long as
quite cool.
everyone's
But
safe.
exactly, that's the point, of course. I once drove 300, and yeah, it can be dangerous. Yeah, it is
300.
dangerous.
Yeah. It very much is, and that's something that I'm always trying to keep in mind with cars, these things. But also it's so fun, and when it's going well and you're racing and you're learning, it is a wild time. Time Attack is what you were actually racing in the GTR.
Yes,
Did you
I
get the
was. Yeah.
GTR just to race, or did you have it and then kind of get into the racing scene?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a backstory. So when I started with that JDM passion, I would
Mm,
say, I was drawn in by basically the drifting. Yeah, I
okay.
had a Nissan 200 SX. I
Yeah.
was into drifting. It was a lot of fun. Welded diffs. Yeah, you tired tires all the way. Yeah. So, but at some point I was like, okay, I want to be more into that track thing. So I switched kind of after years of having that drift car to the Skyline. It felt quite like natural to switch from a rear wheel drive to some all wheel drive car and go to the track. So yeah, that was basically the reason I bought the GTR. And back then they were quite cheap, I would say, because the US was not allowed to import them
Mm,
back then, and it was right before that date would have come that the 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 borders would be opened for that. So I was like, okay, yeah, I have to get the Skyline now before the prices go skyrocket. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And they
that was
have.
basically forcing that also. Yeah.
Did you do any upgrades or anything to it to get it ready for the track?
Um, yeah. So I have to say it was already in a very good state.
Okay.
It was before it had some owners in Germany, of course, before. Also, it was also track driven by them. But I think the most modifications had been done in the UK.
Hmm.
So they did a lot of stuff to the ECU, like giving it
Ah,
a map which is more like race safe. So to not overheat the engine, they also installed bigger coolers for everything, like the charged air, the oil, the water. So everything was kind of upsized regarding the safety of the car. Of course, it also had some overboost, so it was definitely not stock anymore.
yeah.
Um, but the thing I changed right when I got it was basically a roll cage, because that was for me like also a very normal thing. If I decide to go to the track with a car which had like 400 to 500 horsepower, I want to be safe in there. So
Hmm.
yeah, I bought some race seat and had a roll cage welded in by some professional rally driver who also had a garage to like do that professionally, like yeah, also for other like official race cars and stuff. So it was also registered, so everything legal and official. Yeah,
That's super important. Safety first, and that actually
yeah.
turned to be a really good decision for you. So tell us a little bit about the fateful day where you actually did get into an accident.
So it was on the Nürburgring, not the Nordschleife, not the long track, but the GP course, and also the short version. If you are interested into that, you can definitely Google it. You can also drive it in Gran Turismo. Uh, it's the short version of the Nürburgring GP track. It was a mixture of things that happened. So the main root cause problem the car had was that one brake line was leaking
Hmm.
on one side. And you have to imagine the front brakes were like 8 piston brakes. So you had a line on the bottom, which was also transferring the pressure to the other side. So you really have the pressure from both 4 pistons on each side.
Yeah.
Now, on one side now, it was leaking a little bit, and it did not get the pressure to the other side. So it only was braking with one pad, which led on the course to a very fast reduction of the pad. And at some point, it was simply hitting metal to metal. And the brake fluid overheated. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not sure if I could have avoided it because it went really fast. So some corners before, the braking was totally fine. And there was one corner, I hit it too hard. And then I wanted to brake in the next corner and my foot went into the emptiness. So yeah, no braking. I was at around like, I would say 100 kilometers per hour. And it was interesting what happened. So in like 1 second, or not even 1 second, I think in a split second, my brain was calculating the options. So there was a car behind me, there was a car in front of me, and of course there was a turn coming. So I intuitively like pulled the handbrake to try to reduce the speed as much as possible. But of course it was not enough in the end, and I hit like the not the wall, but the planks, the metal planks on the side, with about, I would say, like 30 kilometers per hour.
Hmm.
And you can imagine now everything in the front was like quite pushed, and the lights, the hood, the front crash bar, everything was basically broken. And yeah, I could have avoided it by like pumping the brake pedal, but as I said, in that split second, my brain was like, okay, what's the best option I have?
Yeah.
Handbrake and keeping the car straight. Yeah, so this was basically the beginning of the story, what we will talk about later.
Yeah.
Not yet, because I repaired all that stuff in the front, the cooler and everything. But 1 year later, the engine broke down. In my opinion, because of that accident, because you had a lot of thermal heat in the engine, and I think something expanded at some of the rods, like some nut at the bottom, or maybe the bearing. We are not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, one rod decided 1 year after that Nürburgring accident to leave the block. So that's what basically nailed the combustion era for that car. Yeah.
But you're okay. This is like
Yeah.
anyone who's driven on the track, I feel like this is one of the worst nightmares, but you're okay. Everything's all right. And so
Yeah.
that is kind of a good ending to the story and a good beginning.
Definitely. I mean, my heart was broken, of
Yeah,
course, back then. And also my joints of the hands were like hurted a little bit from the impact. But
sure.
other than that, I survived. It could have been way worse. I could have hit someone else. You know, the track is a war zone, kind of.
Yeah.
So you really have to be careful on there, whatever you're doing. Yeah.
So from where you are now, if you could go back in time to that moment, and tell yourself something, give
Yeah.
yourself some advice or encouragement, a silver lining, like what would you tell your past self being where you are now?
I think I would definitely. So the first thing, if I would see myself, would be like, check everything regarding the brakes. Every time you go to the track, even if you know that every nut is tight and whatever, or if how big the brakes are, check it again. So braking is unfortunately something I did in some process check when I arrived at the track. And on the other hand, I would kind of thank myself because yeah, it was of course a hard time,
Mm,
but I managed it. So that's the good thing. So whatever happens, and this is quite philosophical, but whatever happens, even if it's an accident like that and your car seems destroyed, everything is repairable.
mm.
And you can go to whatever you want to do. It is work, of course, and it is hard at some point, but you definitely can do that. So there's always hope.
Yeah.
to nail it. Yeah,
And
definitely. That's what I would tell myself.
I think that's good. And it is this, like you alluded to, this was kind of the fork in the road where you started doing something quite remarkable. But before we get there, I'd like to go back just a little bit
Mhm.
in time before this race and before that day.
Yes.
Talk about the car. So you've named this car Raijū, is that correct?
Yep. Exactly.
Um, Tell us about that name a little bit.
Yes. So I think everyone hearing that name will assume, oh man, he's really into Pokemon. And I cannot judge them because yeah, there is a Pokemon called Raichu. Uh, People from our generation know that, I guess. But yeah, I'm to skip that Pokemon part maybe. Uh, there is something I really also admire, and that is mythology. So if you look at whatever like Japan or whatever country you have, you always have some mythology and some beasts or demons or some creatures that are mythical to us.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what Raiju is. Raiju is some Japanese like yeah beast, you can say, which has a quite interesting story. So it basically descended from a lightning strike,
Hmm.
and there was some samurai uh, who was kind of splitting that lightning, and
Huh.
then from that split of lightning, that Raiju appeared, and that's what the people are like seeing the lightning as, like a beast, which is quite aggressive. I mean, of course, if you have seen or witnessed a thunderstorm and
Yeah.
you've seen lightning strikes, they can be very aggressive. And so no wonder that the Japanese people back then, I mean, it's like centuries old, that belief. You don't wonder that they see some beast, some power, some nature power in there, and they try to draw it or yeah, grab it in that form like a beast. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And I thought it was kind of the fitting thing for for a car like that. Yeah,
Um, the the Pokemon, is that
yeah.
the yellow one, the little yellow one,
It's yeah,
or is it an?
not the little yellow one. That's Pikachu. Yeah,
It's okay. I just didn't
uh,
know if there was a
but
translation, like maybe Pikachu in the U.S. and Raiju in
no,
Germany.
Raichu is basically the next evolution of Pikachu. So
Pikachu
uh,
evolves? Okay, I'm out of the
yeah,
loop, Marco.
not in the series, but if you have a look at the Pokédex, well, yeah, now it gets nerdy. Yeah, a Pikachu could evolve to a Raichu. Yeah,
Okay, there's the
yeah.
missing link. I
But yeah, there's definitely. So I can recommend. There's a video on YouTube which explains exactly that Raichu meaning, and also maps it to the different Pokemon that there are today. Yeah, I mean today there are like, I don't even know how many, but back then when I was young, when we were
hmm.
young, it was like only 150. Can you imagine?
I was
But yeah.
pretty good at them back when it was just video, the Game Boy.
Mhm.
Just the Game Boy. I knew most of them, but it has evolved since then.
I mean, there are over 1,000 or 1,500. I don't know.
Wow. Okay, so
But yeah,
this was a name that you gave the car after when you decided it was going to become an electric beast, an electric thunder
exactly.
beast.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you made this decision that it was time to go to electric. What was your starting point on that journey? Were you aware of some of the general formulas people use to do an EV conversion? There's a few there's a few sets of parts that are often used, or were you starting out from a research phase 101? How do you do it?
Yeah. So it was a slow process, I would say. So um, basically, and I think that has also something to do with my job overall. I'm in IT. I my job is to get information, sort them, and provide them again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was investigating a lot. I was watching YouTube videos.
Mm.
Um, Especially, I can remember of like two channels, um, Rich Rebuilds, quite
Hmm.
famous in the US, I guess, and also Jerry Rig Everything,
Yeah.
because he converted that Hummer. So those two guys really give me that inspiration with their like very chilled, uh, like yeah, how they do stuff. And I was like, oh man, I really want to do that too. And yeah, and luckily, or yeah, it's weird to say luckily, but I had a chassis down in my workshop and was like, okay, uh, I sense something here. I sense
Hmm.
an opportunity. And yeah, so from that, I was like investigating how can I do that? What do I need? And of course, they provided a lot of information on the components themselves. Um, Also, in parallel, I was investigating on all the communities which were already present on that day,
Yeah.
like several years ago. Um, so yeah, I sneaked my way into knowing what I need, and in the end, I ordered like a mixture of a kit and some separate components, which I said, okay, I want to have this in a different way and whatever how I like it. Yeah. So that it was also a tough process, I would say, to get to know all that stuff, the
Mm.
terms, and yeah, to know what can happen. What do I have to take care about? Yeah. So yeah.
It is a lot. It's funny you mentioned IT. When I was first starting to learn about EV conversions, I drew quite the parallel between building desktop computers and an EV conversion because that's something
Yeah.
I did know. I've built gaming computers, for a long time, and I understood how you get the different components and plug them in, and they need to work and they need to talk to one another, and it is electrical. So that was like a decent starting point, but
Mhm.
then it just like totally ramps up into a lot more complicated things. But it's still in some ways more simple than an ICE car. It's just not exactly what we're used to.
Yeah, I can confirm. So I think I rebuilt like two engines. So from script, like they were
Wow.
broken. I have to disassemble it and reassemble it. So the amount of parts you have to deal with and you have to take care about is way more than an electric car, of course. Yeah, yeah,
So what kit and parts did you settle on for this build?
yeah. So I mean to maybe start with the motor itself.
Okay.
It's a very common motor in the conversion scene. I would say it's a HyPer9 from
Mm-hmm.
Netgain.
Yeah.
Um, I have to say, unfortunately, I took the 100-volt version um, because it came with some disadvantages afterwards in the build, but it does not matter right now. So it was the 100-volt HyPer9. Um, in the kit, also the inverter was included, yeah, water
Mm-hmm.
cooled. I considered this also quite practical to have already a like coolable system,
Mm-hmm.
which gave me some kind of security feeling. Also, having all the cables I need in the different diameters to have that in one kit is gold, I would say,
Yeah.
because of course you could calculate all the stuff, all the lines and the distances, but it's also good to just get that kit where you have all the cables you need. Of course, you use, some you don't use, or you need to rebuy some because you did some wrong cables, whatever. But it's good to have everything in your garage and not stand in front something and you're like, oh, what am I missing? And is there something I need? Or so that insecurity can really block your spirit, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a kit like that is recommendable. Regarding the batteries, I chose Tesla modules. They're also super safe. They're easy to access and easy to implement in your system. Regarding the 100-volt motor, I only needed like five of them. So yeah, at this point, people will realize it's quite a small system. I did not want to create a range monster. I just wanted to have that car back again on the street and in electric. So it's only 32 kilowatt hours roundabout.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's totally enough for what I want to do with that car now. Yeah. So that's regarding the batteries. And yeah, there are a lot of like additional small components like the DC-DC converter to power your 12-volt battery. It's like the generator, you can say, for your 12-volt system. And those are all like random components which are available on the market.
Mm.
Also the charger. There are more modern versions on the market meanwhile, but it's a 6.6 kilowatt charger,
Okay. Yeah.
which will power the battery. So stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I think that one thing you might find interesting is that the kit that you have is very similar to what I was
Hmm.
racing with on the track this
Yeah,
weekend.
I saw that. I saw
Yeah,
that. They
it's
also
a
had the HyPer9, right?
HyPer9 motor,
Yeah.
36 kilowatt hour pack.
Okay.
But
Cool.
the big difference is that pack is swappable. You could
Yeah.
actually pull it out and replace it. But we're
That was
getting a
super
little
cool to
bit.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. We wanted to post a lot more, the entire team, but there was zero cell phone service. Occasionally, we would get a little one bar and be able
Mhm.
to post something, but that was pretty much it.
Normally, that's a very German problem because Germany is considered as the internet worst country on the planet, kind of. Sometimes it feels like it. You are in the city and you have no internet at all. But
Oh,
yeah, that's a completely different story.
I didn't know that, but solidarity. In the US, a lot of the tracks are very rural.
Mm.
They're, an hour from a town or something, and
Mhm.
that doesn't help either. But
I guess. Yeah.
um, so when you were looking through these and you were settling on the parts, was there ever a point where you thought that maybe you wanted to convert a different car, or was it just the GTR? That was the one that had caught your imagination.
No, I would say the situation led to that. Um, I think if the I cannot even tell what would have happened when the GTR did not break down. Maybe I would still drive races with a combustion engine. I'm not sure. You never can tell what when something like 10 years ago happened, where you would be now.
Sure.
That's the chaos theory. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
everything could have happened. Now, but uh, if I would or could take the rechoice, I think I would convert a car where I would have more space, to be honest.
Sure.
Because yeah, looking at the GTR, it is already a race car. It is tight. Everything is like very narrow, tight, and already constructed quite well.
Hmm.
Which leads to the problem that when you want to construct something different inside there, you have a limited amount of space. Yeah. So yeah, I really had to make some decisions where to position something or how to keep the balance. There's also a reason why the engine is in the gearbox tunnel. So basically, the engine, the motor is sitting between the seats. Yeah, not in the front because there are the batteries, but in the very middle of the car. But that's the reason I kept my balance. Yeah?
Mm.
So for another car, I would definitely choose some maybe like many people in the US do, like some pickup or something that has some carry some can carry some weight,
Yeah.
or maybe also a camper would be cool, electric camper. I've seen some, and I can imagine that very cool that you are like going out into the wilderness and you are kind of really self-sufficient even when it comes to your power to motion. Yeah.
Yeah. And a little solar panel to stay
Yeah.
charged.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Speaking of other cars, you had mentioned to me that that you had some experience driving a Tesla at one point. And this is, I guess, before the build journey as well. Could you tell us a little bit more about that Tesla driving that you used to do?
Yeah. So um, it is also related to the Skyline because it was some kind of coping, I would say, coping mechanism.
Yes, yes.
So I moved to Salzburg back then to start a job at Red Bull, which
Hmm.
was quite interesting. And in that job, I had to drive a lot through the mountains. And yeah, I had some kind of company car, but it was I don't even want to mention it. It was very lame. It was not fun at all.
Hyundai
So I
i10.
decided, huh?
Hyundai i10.
No, it was a Volkswagen Golf. So
Those are popular here.
yeah, okay, I can imagine, yes. But in Germany, especially, it's the most common car you can see.
Okay,
Uh,
fair.
and coming from a Skyline,
Okay.
I was having to drive a Golf. I was like, oh no, it was too normal, the car. It was fine. It was comfortable. It was very chilled, yeah. Um, but I did not feel it.
Hmm.
And that was
Coming
when
from
I
a
decided,
Skyline,
yeah,
I
exactly. That's a hard fall.
yeah.
Yeah, you know.
It is a
But
hard
yeah,
fall.
I did some test drive with a Tesla, and I imagine I can remember the Model 3 was just coming out back then. It was 2019, I guess. So I was doing a test drive and I was kind of in love with the acceleration, with the all-wheel drive. It was incredible.
Hmm.
And yeah, I decided to get one. And then I had a lot of fun in the Austrian mountains. So definitely was worth it. It was not cheap, but you pay for fun. That's always the game, and this also pushed the idea to combine now the Skyline with some electric motor. So it was definitely some accelerator for that thoughts. Yeah,
Hmm. The all-wheel drive must have felt familiar in the
yeah,
way that it handled.
yeah, yeah. It was even better, I would say, but you have to consider the all-wheel drive of the Skyline was you had the power in the rear, and when it got slip, it was pushing the power also to the front wheels. So on a track, that can be more fun.
Hmm. Yeah.
But of course, you have to work with that. It's not a constant all-wheel drive, which is
I didn't
maybe
know that.
more controllable and more safe.
Hmm.
Um, so I even liked it more because you also had that instant push and
Hmm.
you always had grip and it was catapulting you to the front so forward. So that really hooked me, and I to be honest, I really was a little bit scared that when I have the Skyline at some point ready again and I'm switching from the Tesla to the Skyline, I would have somehow be disappointed
Hmm.
of the Skyline
Yeah.
because the Tesla was simply it was feeling very similar to that boost hit you get when those 1.2 bar hit
Yeah.
with the turbocharged car. Um, Quite similar, or even better feeling to have that in the elevator going straight. Yeah.
How was your tire budget during this time?
I
Did you
had to.
burn through tires
You mean with the Tesla or the Skyline?
with the Tesla?
Um, no, that was quite fine. So yeah, I was basically not burning that much tire. I had to change them like I guess every year, yes, but it was less than I expected. Yeah,
That's good. That
definitely.
maybe is driver skill, understanding how to manage them. I come across a lot of people who buy Teslas and start driving them in the States and have to replace their tires in 8,000 miles, 10,000
Mhm,
miles,
mhm.
which is very fast. They just but that acceleration and being able to just have all of that grip, they just burn through them really fast
Yeah, I guess they just push it all the time.
because it's
Yeah,
too fun. It's too
yeah.
fun. Was there a moment when you were driving the Tesla that was kind of a light bulb where you're like, wait a minute, this is really good. This is not just a commuter car. This could be an enthusiast's car.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and this is of course quite illegal here in Germany or Austria. I constantly had like kind of small races on the street with some random like Porsche, or I remember even one time there was a Ferrari and I was on the side and it had no chance. Maybe the owner did not push it, but I was really like, oh come on, that's easy. It felt too easy.
Wow.
Um, so I definitely saw the potential to race those cars. Um, I mean, of course, I never put it to the track because if I would, if that would crash, not even by my fault, by someone else, um, I could not have paid that.
Right.
But I would definitely, if you give me a Tesla for free, I would go to the track. I would push it hard. I mean, there's a company also in the States, Unplugged Performance,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and they have modified Model S, which is like it has a big wing, it
Hmm.
has flaps, and I think they also drove to Pikes Peak with that.
They have.
So it is possible to tune those cars and really go hard with them. Um, and I think that that will be something in the future, definitely. Yeah.
I've been on the track at the same time with that car. Dark Helmet, I think, is
Ah.
the name of it. And
Mhm.
the driver at the time, Craig, is a super nice guy. But
Mhm.
there is a little kind of grassroots Tesla racing in this part of the world, and with where people are racing Teslas. I brought mine on the track, but what I do is you can get track insurance,
Ah.
which is a small fee that basically, if something was to happen,
Mhm.
then you can like get another car. They'll pay you. I think I went maybe once or twice without that, and then had never gone to track days before. And then I started getting, when I was going slow, it didn't feel like that risky. But then as I was getting
Mhm.
better, I was like, oh, I need to get this track insurance.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
critical.
definitely,
This is my daily
definitely. If
driver.
you can get that definitely, because it can be over quite fast.
When you were driving the Tesla and you were enjoying it on the mountain roads, was there a point? Did you, I guess, describe that light bulb moment when you were thinking like, oh, I could actually build one of these, or what? Did it just kind of occur to you one day and surprise you? Did you think you'd be
It
building an EV?
No. So when I moved to Salzburg, like, or when let's say when I had that Skyline, I did not spend a single thought about that. I
Hmm.
did not even know about the communities and that people are really doing that and spending a lot of time and money and passion into that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so it was an evolving process. I also listened a lot to a podcast from Fully Charged. It's a
Hmm.
British one.
Yeah.
Um, Incredibly inspiring, and they also were telling a lot about like people trying to modernize our whole infrastructure in any kind of way. Of course, also cars, but stationary batteries or charging solutions, and that whole topic simply hooked me so much. Um, Combined with the Tesla I had, combined with the car I had in my garage, and at some point, it really everything came together and was like, yeah, that's the way I want to go. Yeah. So, and for me, it was also clear to somehow get the car on the road. I think it took 1 year for me to decide if I want to rebuild the car with a combustion engine again, which
Hmm.
also would have been quite expensive to get it to that point where it was.
Yeah.
Because the parts are rare. You only find them mainly in Japan. You have to import. Terrible.
Overnight
And
parts
on
from
the other,
Japan.
yeah, oh yeah, take my money. Uh, yeah, but on the other hand, I saw the opportunity to do something very extraordinary, especially with the GTR, which is a very extraordinary car. So I was like, yeah, I want to have that legend in electric. Yeah.
I love it. So that brings us back to the build itself. And so you described you're using the HyPer9 motor, the HyPer9 controller that comes with the motor,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
32 kilowatt hours of Tesla cells.
Mhm.
What are you using to manage those batteries?
I have the Orion 2 BMS.
Okay.
So also quite common BMS to implement in builds because it is basically fully open to configure. So whatever you want to have in also notification or separate lines you want to control, some gauges, some lights or some other devices, you can configure that BMS quite well, and that made it very easy to as as an IT guy again to dig into those manuals and get to know how to configure that the best way. Of course, I had to learn about stuff like balancing the cells.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know about balancing cells before I started looking into that BMS, and I was like, okay, there's some balancing, and then I saw the different cell voltages, and I was like, yeah, okay. I read through that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I have to balance them to some uh, same level, kind of, and yeah, I was digging into that. That worked out, so I learned a lot in the process, and the BMS really made it quite easy for me to understand. A big thing was the
Mm.
CAN bus system. That is something which was very weird to me because I was used to have information packages, like data packages in TCP, so like packages,
Uh-huh.
and the CAN bus system simply works in a different way. Yeah, so that was a little bit weird for me, but as I said in the beginning, everything is possible, kind of. You just have to take time and get familiar with the stuff, and then you can do that. Yeah,
Part of the fun, especially once it's
definitely.
done and you look back at the success.
Yeah,
Sometimes it can be challenging in the midst. I'm trying to think the GTR would be OBD1 or OBD2 originally. Is that what they call it in
it
Germany?
it definitely did not have OBD2.
Okay.
So because in the manual they mentioned like LED like signals you can read out the ECU with.
Uh-huh.
Um, and there was some plug you could use for the Nissan software to access it somehow.
Mm.
Uh, for me or for my GTR, there was already a Nistune installed, which is a also configurable ECU. But to be honest, I never touched it.
Yeah, because it was
I
already done.
I it was already like in a perfect like map, I would say, for what I would have used it. But yeah, so I'm not so familiar in accessing the ECU stuff because I did not want to break anything here. Yeah.
Do you still utilize any signals from that original ECU for lights or any of the other car components that are not engine related?
No. So the ECU is completely gone.
Okay.
I really that will shed some tears at some people's faces, but I really cut the lines to the ECU and sold it away. So the ECU, the original ECU, is not existent anymore. But of course, I have some other control units in the car which are still kind of active. For example, the ABS
Yeah.
um, for the brake system.
Yep.
This is somehow separated from the ECU. So I use some signals from the car's original functions, light switches, and all the devices you still need for a car to run. But yeah, motor-wise, I really checked also the plans and the drawings for what I need and what I don't need. That was quite some weird nights learning cable colors
I
and
bet.
if that cable is important or not. So I kind of have that diagram in my head now, which will haunt me for years, I guess.
I'm sure. But I could imagine very difficult to because sometimes one control unit relies on a signal from another control unit. And
Yeah.
if you cut too many, and then you're going to have to figure out how to rebuild that line to get the signal and spoof it somehow.
Yeah,
But it worked. You got it. You cut the right wire the first time, and you're good.
exactly. So the system is totally functional. I had one problem with the speed gauge because it was very mechanical. It was like connected to the gearbox and giving the speed from the gearbox mechanically to the dash.
Uh-huh.
And I had to replace that, of course, with some other kind of speed signal. But I luckily found some CAN controlled one, which I will insert in the original dashboard. And I will simply grab the speed signal from the inverter now, which gives me the speed, also calculated to the diameter of the wheels and stuff. So yeah, but that was a tough thing I wanted to replace in the first step, but did not work out. But it was a mechanical thing. So yeah.
What was the biggest trade-off decision that you had to make when you were putting this car together? You mentioned that there was a few, and I guess what is the biggest one that you get in there and you go, okay, here's I'm gonna have to compromise.
Yeah, I guess it is the all-wheel drive. So I won't have that anymore
Okay.
because currently I connected the motor to a torque converter, and this goes directly to the main shaft uh, to the back of the car. Of course, I could have chosen two motors, one in the front, one in the back. That is still a dream of mine,
Mm,
but it would have made the whole build way more complex.
yeah.
You need two inverters. You need a whole lot of more cooling lines, a lot more of cabling. It has to be synchron or however you want to have the power wherever. So uh, I explicitly decided against a two motor system in the beginning and went for the easy way, just go to the back. But of course, now I will have a rear wheel drive GTR kind of. That is the biggest trade off I think I will definitely miss compared to the original car. Yeah.
Maybe it's easier to drift though,
It will
going
be,
back to your roots.
yeah, maybe I just do some rewind of that. Yeah.
Maybe. So this build is done and running for the most part, as much as any project car ever is. When you flipped the switch and turned it on and took it for its first drive, how did that feel?
To be honest, I really had some wet eyes. You definitely. I was having a moment of like, oh my God, the fuck is happening? The hell is happening? Cut that. um, so yeah, so I really was very emotional because the car was sitting there for like 4 years without of course I pushed it and we yeah, but moving on its own after 4 years
Yeah.
while seeing it every day or every week kind of that really was like a nice moment. It's like seeing your kid walk for the first time, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was something I imagined, yeah. But that was incredible, and it really also gave me again a push for that I'm not doing the wrong way, I guess. So it really was like, hey man, you did that somehow.
Yeah.
You're you kind of did it, yeah. So it was really nice. It really hit me, yeah.
Nice job, man.
Yeah, thanks.
How does it perform? Have you stepped on it a little bit and launched it and
So
put it through the
yeah,
paces?
I tried, but to be honest, I only have like it's like 20 meters in my in my driveway or in the driveway of the house we live. Um, and so there's a hard boundary. There's no grass you can roll out if it's going too fast. So of course there I rode a lot
Uh-huh.
just to feel the acceleration and the braking, test the brakes and stuff. But I did not have a chance to really test it faster and in corners and how it will react when I push the pedal. But yeah, I did a lot of testing in yeah the area I could test it, but definitely nothing I could get some proper results out of it. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, it's very basic.
When you got to that point and it's driving and it's working, would you say that you've convince some of your friends? How did they react seeing this 4-year project that I'm sure they were a part of to some extent, maybe even helping
Yeah,
along the
yeah.
way? Did you make some believers out of them, or are they now thinking about their own conversions?
I wouldn't take it that far. Although, of course, some people said, like, oh man, if that car works, we can definitely talk about some project I want to do too. So, but the percentage is very low, I would say,
Hmm.
um, which comes from a very German point of view about cars. But yeah, that's a whole different story, kind of. Um, in general, my friends and also my colleagues at work, uh, they are very much into the project too, and a lot of them helped me in the process, and I really have to thank them at that point. They gave me a lot of motivation, especially when I was in front of some weird issue, and everyone knows that you are having like a block in front of you, and you simply cannot process. But with someone coming by, grabbing a beer, talking about a problem, and solving it together at some point, it really gave me like the push forward again, and I was starting to run again. So I definitely couldn't have made it without them. That's for sure. Yeah, they really are into the project. Of course, you also have the other side. Many people are like doubting it, like, are you sure you want to do this with that car? You
Yeah,
cannot do that. So the list of stuff I got yelled at, was is very long, but at some point you have to simply look over it and focus on the people cheering you up. And yeah, look at your compagnons, I would say, your the people who are with you instead
hmm,
of the people who are against you, because it's not worth it. Yeah.
absolutely. So what is next with this car? What's next on the journey?
I guess it's the most challenging part. Basically, it's the infamous German TÜV.
Hmm.
So it's a technical agency for checking the car. I also think it's quite known on the planet, because especially the German TÜV is very, very strict and very precise when it comes to self-built stuff. What I have to do now is to find someone who is basically also into, or let's say, not against that project.
Okay.
So I need also someone who is not saying like, what EVs? I'm not a fan. And you build one by yourself? No, then I won't do that. Or I will give you hell in doing that. Um, so I have to find someone who's like pro electric conversion, and who really is also open to be spoken to, or to discuss some things. I definitely want to build that car in a safe and proper way, but I need someone who helps me with that, and not who someone who's like working against me. You know,
Is is
so
this like registration in what we would
exactly,
call registration? And you have to
yeah,
get
exactly,
inspected to be able to register it.
exactly. And in Germany, it's very tough to even modify cars. If you want to install a spoiler and you don't have some papers by the company who produced that, you cannot do that basically. It also is the same with rims. If you have some cool, fancy looking rims from Japan and they don't have papers, you don't even have to try. Or you find some illegal way, some friends who can do that for you, kind of. But in general, it's very hard to do that. For like special cars like this, or special builds, it's a little bit a different story, because they consider that car as a special machine,
Hmm.
a new machine on inexistent. So that's why I can tell the TÜV, hey, there are some crazy parts on here, but please check them one by one and register it also like it's a very brand new car. Of course, this is expensive, more than just getting a normal car on the street,
Sure.
because they have to spend time to invest on those parts. So it will be more costly and more time intensive to get that sorted out with the TÜV.
In the US, when we go to the registration office for like an inspection, you kind of get who you get, and
Mm.
there's no control. Is it different there where where there's different shops, different mechanics that you could find someone that has familiarity with electric components?
Yes. So there are, of course, it's also very random if you go to random shops. Some are pro, some are contra, but especially for this build, I'm looking out for people I heard about from my friends who told me, hey, I may use some TÜV guy. He's also into special cars and may also approve like what you do. And I will rely on that. So I will not go randomly to some TÜV because they will see the car from far away and will be like, oh God, my day is done. Um, and then they will automatically be in a negative mood about it. And I don't want
Sure,
to happen like that.
definitely.
So I will look out for someone who is a recommendation, kind of.
That
Yeah.
sounds great. I'm excited for you to cross that final finish line.
Whew, I will be nervous. I already get nervous thinking about it, but yeah.
What do you think? I have a couple more questions for you as someone who is kind of steeped in this and also your background. EV conversions. I think oftentimes people talk about power and range. Batteries is a big one, and we're always looking for the better battery combinations. But from your perspective and kind of the work you've done in this car and just your general IT experience, what is something that EV conversions and EV cars need more of that people aren't thinking about?
The most special thing no one is talking about or no one has a focus on is basically a vehicle to grid because this will have such a great impact on so much more things than just our mobility.
Mm,
um, I mean, imagine your car simply as a power storage for a lot of capacity. I mean, electric cars from when you buy them today, or let's say the next time, they will have like 100 to 120 kilowatt hours. That's a lot. So everyone who's somehow into electrics and understands capacities will definitely be like, oh damn, you can power your house like for some weeks, months, depending on what you use, of course.
yeah.
So um, looking out to some other problems we have on the planet right now, like how to provide clean energy to also remote areas or whatever. I consider this as basically a very essential thing, which will shift the next time that we integrate the cars more into our grids and have them as a leveling or simply as a backup storage with all those upcoming new storms and climate change stuff. Um, a lot of those emergency situations will happen. I mean, in the States, you have them more than we have them in Germany. Just to catch the day here in Germany, we had a tornado warning today. So
Wow.
there's tornadoes in Germany. I mean, I'm not sure if that was just some newspaper going wild, but I can see the storm clouds from my window. Um, and this is not normal. Of course, it's not normal.
Right.
Everyone should know that climate change is affecting the weather and stuff. So being prepared for situations like that and having electric cars, which are watertight, so also flooding is not a problem for them. They can really provide like households or like whatever critical infrastructure you have as a separate battery. And this is the key point, I would say, which is not really spoken about yet.
Mm.
Of course, the technology is there. Modern cars can do that. Our grid cannot do it yet. But if we combine that more and more, it will definitely push our possibilities, I would say.
That's a beautiful vision. I think that I have not seen a conversion that has vehicle to grid yet. Some OEM cars are starting to come out with it, but and the ones that have, there's really good stories that align exactly with what you're describing. The power's out. You can't even pump gas. out of the, even though once it's out, you can burn it in a generator, but you can't pump it out of the tank without power. And people who
For
have
example.
cars that are electric can then power their houses. They can keep everyone cool. They have a lot of capability with that energy combined.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to see more vehicle to grid from the conversion standpoint.
Hmm.
If you fast forward 5 years, and of course you've passed the registration and are just enjoying the car now, what's your kind of dream vision in 5 years with Raijū?
If I would be very adventurous, um, I think I would definitely want to have my own shop where I convert cars. Of course, this depends on a lot of parameters like financial stability, the economic stability, the willingness of especially the German population to convert cars.
Hmm.
Um, but I would love to have a shop like, let's say, EV West or whatever converting shop there is out there. I would really love to have something like that. Maybe especially for JDM cars, or let's just say exotic cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely see myself in a position like that. I would love to help the people to convert cars to electric. Yeah.
If you ever have the budget, there's a conference in Colorado. It's called State of Charge that
Yeah, I saw it.
I think you would
So
really
cool.
you would like it. Terry has been putting it on the last few years, and it is really just shops and builders like
Ah,
yourself. So
cool.
it's a much smaller than something like SEMA, which is
Mhm.
250,000 people, and
Yeah,
EVs are just a
huge.
small. This is much more. It's a who's who, if you will, kind of
Mhm, mhm.
um, putting it in a funny way. But maybe in the next 5 years, sometime you'll be able to make it out. I think you would, at the very least, enjoy it, and it would be the type of people, the type other people with shops like that, and
Yeah,
cool conversions. But regardless, I'm going to be going this year. I'll post some cool stuff for you, and
do it.
since you can't make it.
Cool.
Likewise, if I in the next 5 years, it sounds like I need to make it out to Germany and drive on the Autobahn before that speed limit is
Please.
changed. So if that comes to pass, I will let you know. But in the meantime, everyone, you can find Marco's information, his YouTube channel, Instagram, all in the show notes. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you on the progress of passing the registration and everything else that you're up to. It's really cool stuff. And thank you, Marco, for taking us through this build and being on the show.
Thank you too. And you're invited to Munich, of course.
I look forward to it. Talk soon.